Hey, what's up guys, this is CK Supreme and welcome back to another video guide slash tutorial. So in my last video I went over a high level build that utilized quite a few max rarity items. That begs the question though, how do you get these items? Well my friends, if you want to do that, then you're going to need currency. Lots and lots of currency. So in this video, we're going to go over how to get that currency, as well as what each one does and the best slash quickest way to farm them individually. Let's get into it. First things first, if you're new to the game, you're probably wondering what all these currencies are and where to even find them. So here's a quick rundown of each one from top to bottom. Blood is the most common currency and is obtained from killing enemies as well as from random objects in the overgrowth. Materials are the second most common and are collected from lootable caches and from selling items. The third hardest to obtain are cores, and you get these from stashes as well as by finding 4 core shards, which can be obtained in a variety of ways. The second rarest currency are gold rations, which are only obtained from labs and at the end of cycles. And the rarest currency are abyss stones, which are only obtained from slaying crown bosses, though you can also get a free one at the end of each successful cycle. So let's talk about the first and arguably most ubiquitous currency in the game, bright blood. This is likely the first currency you'll get your hands on, and it's honestly not super important at the start of the game since its only use currently is buying and upgrading items from vendors. So if you're just starting out, I wouldn't worry about this one too much since you'll get plenty from just playing the game normally for now, and you're better off focusing on obtaining the materials needed to unlock and upgrade said vendors. However, if you're in mid or late game and you're looking to farm this, then the best method by far is to equip the Danger Blood Holobite, which increases the blood you gain based on how full your danger meter is, and then just slaughtering the constant waves of enemies that spawn on you after your gauge is full, which you can easily make happen by either just running around collecting the loot in your world, or killing a boss which instantly maxes it out. You can also find items that have the thrombosis injector affix, like this one here, which helps out a lot with gathering more blood. Like I said in my previous video, these affixes are of varying quality and seems to max out at 65%. It's worth mentioning that it's good to have a lot of blood at the end of each run for a reason I'll talk about later. Now for the next resource, materials. You use these for unlocking your vendors at the start of the game and for buying items. The best way to find these is by keeping an eye out for lootable caches on your minimap, which will appear as a little gem. Although sometimes they won't appear on your minimap at all, which is likely a bug. Unlike stashes, caches will not appear on your main map, but you can usually find them near the other points of interest that are marked on your main map, like weapons, stashes, equipment, etc. But you probably already knew that, so here's something you might not know. You can also get materials from inconspicuous looking lootable parts of the environment in the overgrowth. Probably the most obvious of them are these little white capsules you'll find scattered around the map, but a good example of one of the less obvious ones are these sarcophagi you can find in the desert. Other places that I know you can gather materials in this way are stacks of boxes, bridges, and machine rubble. It's worth just walking up to these things sometimes and seeing if you can get the option to interact with it. You never know what might be lootable. Another way to get materials is by selling items, with the only items not being worth materials being white rarity rails and blades. Unless... what if I told you there was a way to actually make these items become worth materials? That's right. If you've got excess blood but need materials, then something you can do is upgrade your common rarity items to level 2, which increases their sell value and makes them worth 1 material. Might not seem like a lot initially, but you can believe me when I say that it makes a big difference over time and can definitely help in a pinch. Also, the vendors that sell items in the overgrowth never require materials to purchase, even if the items themselves are worth materials sellback-wise, allowing you to effectively do the same thing. Moving to the rarer side of things, the next currency of note are cores. This currency is hugely important even into late game, as it's used for upgrading your skill tree as well as your psychoms, the latter of which takes a very long time to max out. You obtain these primarily from stashes, which are loot crates that are visible on your main map, though you can also get them from collecting 4 core shards, which can be found in regular caches, as well as odd piles of bones you'll find occasionally, which will be obvious due to the little aura they'll be emitting. Furthermore, you can also buy core shards from this eldritch NPC vendor lady called the Chemist. She'll sell 3 for 80 bright blood each, so keep an eye out for those locked off areas. Speaking of locked off areas, the only place you can get your next currency without resetting your run is from underground labs, that currency being the prized gold rations. This is arguably the most valuable resource at the beginning of the game, due to the fact that, as of right now, your ability to use medkits is locked behind the first one you get, and after that it's the primary currency used to upgrade your shopkeeps and your skill tree, both of which are vital pieces of progression in the game. If you're new to Breaker, I highly recommend keeping an eye out for one of these labs. They won't be marked on your map until you're close enough, but their very distinct appearance makes them easy to spot from far away, and with a discerning eye, it's even possible to pick one up just by looking hard enough for this little gray spot with a pink dot in the middle on your main map. Here's a clip of me doing this now. You'll also know if you're near a lab when you see objectives such as caches, stashes, or prisms on your minimap, but when you walk over to their location, they're nowhere to be found. This is because they're underground, so keep your eyes open because that means there's a secret entrance nearby. Other than the 1 gold ration you get from labs, the primary way you'll be obtaining them is from resetting the cycle, to either die 4 times or kill all 3 crowns. When this happens, the teleporter will reward you with gold rations based on how many objectives you completed during this cycle, as well as how much bright blood, cores, and materials you have. I wish I could give you guys an exact conversion amount, but unfortunately that isn't possible right now. The important thing to remember is that you do not want to spend your resources right before resetting the cycle. This might seem counterintuitive, since the cost to do so is based on a percentage of the resources you have in your possession, but trust me, the gold rations are worth it. Finally, this brings us to the rarest resource of them all, Abyss Stones. This currency is occasionally used in Psycom and skill tree upgrades, and can only be obtained from defeating crown bosses and successfully completing cycles. The first crown boss of every cycle will always drop an Abyss Stone, but after that they are no longer guaranteed. You will also receive an Abyss Stone after resetting a cycle following the elimination of all 3 crowns. Sadly, there's no trick to obtaining these. If you want them, you'll have to get to slaying some bosses. Fortunately though, they're also the least used resources as well, so the frequency at which you'll be obtaining them and spending them will most likely balance out. Well, that just about covers all the conventional resources in Hyperlight Breaker, but let's talk about the 2 currencies that reset after every run. Keys and Medigems. As you can probably guess, keys are used for unlocking things, specifically these glitchy walled-off areas and labs. You never know just how many keys you'll end up needing for a given cycle, so it never hurts to have as many as possible at any given time. In this clip, for instance, it cost me 2 keys just for one little area. It's a good thing I had purchased so many from a chemist earlier, otherwise I would have gone without. Speaking of which, you can get up to 3 keys from her using that method, but whether you find the chemist or manage to pick up a key from a cache is RNG. The only guaranteed ways to obtain keys are by purchasing this skill tree upgrade or by killing a crown boss. Both of these will get you 1 guaranteed key per cycle. And then there's Medigems. I won't spend too much time on these since there's quite a few other videos talking about their use and how to obtain them. But to summarize, this currency is used for obtaining medkits, and they are obtained by collecting these little green plants around the overgrowth. It costs 3 Medigems to refill a single medkit at the teleporter at the start of a run, and 5 Medigems to obtain one from a shrine, the price of which increases with every use until the cycle resets. It's important to note that you cannot obtain any more medkits than your max, which is 0 by default, making this currency useless until you purchase the first medkit upgrade. One more thing that pertains to loot gathering are specific upgrades you can unlock, as well as a certain hollow bite. In regards to the upgrades, in your skill tree you can unlock these to increase the rarity of your loot by a stackable amount. Another thing that has the ability to do this is the ops stat in your Psycom, which essentially functions as luck, and not only increases your chances to receive better items, but also to deal the maximum possible amount of damage for each hit, since damage has about a 10% variability like in Terraria or League of Legends. As of right now, the Astrologer and Sniper Psychoms start out with the highest ops stat, but the Sniper Psycom has the highest potential ops since it goes up 2 per upgrade, which is why I'm currently using it right now. Oh, and if you're wondering what ops stands for, it's odds per stuff, according to one of the people who works directly with the Breaker devs. Finally, that holobyte I mentioned earlier is the Dusty Scanner. I don't use this, to be honest, because having more blood from something like the Danger Blood holobyte is way better in my opinion, since it enables you to buy better items from the shop. Plus, you already get double drops a decent amount by default in the game, and having more loot isn't necessarily always a good thing, since it'll just clog up your vault faster, and it's more the quality of the loot that actually matters. That concludes our breakdown of everything you need to know about Hyperlight Breaker's resources and how to farm them. Sorry it took longer than expected to get this out to you guys, but unfortunately I've been super busy with work lately. Tomorrow, though, you can expect another 100% cycle completion speedrun, while I'll be attempting to set another world record and hopefully beat my previous best by at least 5 minutes. Stay tuned for that, and until next time, I'll see you later.